Geneva, Watches and Wonders 2024. Didn't want to make the same video everybody else did, showing a bunch of things, because you guys seen it all already. So I decided to take you on a trip alongside with me as if you were there next to me. I got in late Wednesday night, didn't get to my hotel till about 1 o'clock in the morning. First thing that was on my list was not to go to Pele Expo, but I decided to dedicate a couple of days visiting Independence. My first stop was probably the one I was looking forward to the most. That is a personal meeting with a legend in our industry, Jean-Claude Biver. The Biver company was born, sort of a legacy product from Jean-Claude Biver, and I couldn't wait to get my physical hands on the watches because I've never actually saw the watches. Outside of the fact that this man is a legend, the watches he made, let me tell you, were indeed legendary. The quality, the highest of quality, and also, as Jean-Claude Biver put it,
but I believe that when you reach perfection in your tool, in your product, in your job, in whatever, in your education, when you reach perfection, which is impossible, but when you reach what is possible to reach as a perfection, then and only then you start to touch eternity. And eternity is born through perfection. And as long as you have not reached perfection, don't expect eternity to be on your side. Eternity only opens to you when you have mastered all the invisible elements of your philosophy or of your tool or of your product.
one of the things I got to do there as well was to try Jean-Claude Biver's cheese. For those of you guys don't know, he has probably the most exclusive cheese in the world. He has his own cheese farm where he makes his cheese. He doesn't sell the cheese. He only gives it to friends and family. So it's actually an honor to receive that cheese. And by the way, I am going to do a full-length video of the meeting with Jean-Claude Biver and his watches as a separate video. Otherwise, if I do it for every brand that I visited, again, this video will be 5 days long. So stay tuned for that. Next stop was Art Time, another watch I've been reading about, seen in pictures, haven't seen in person, had the opportunity to look at the watch. Now, this is a very small independent, very small productions. I think they made 20 watches this year at best. First thing I noticed right away is that it looked like the watch was diamond encrusted, but it's not. It's because of the creative way where the crystal is like half crystal, half case. The second thing that impressed me the most is the watchmaker with Art Time is from the renowned 𝗴𝗙 pedigree. Much more impressive in person than it is on pictures. Beautifully made watches. From there, me and my buddy Jason jumped over to HYT. Now they are under new management. There are new things. And I spoke about two things. Number one, how impressed I was with their new 𝗙𝗰𝗲 model. I looked at some of their lower price models that don't have the biggest bar of entry, if you will, because when they first came out, original retail prices on their cheapest watch was like $70,000 or $80,000. And really, I talked to them about quality because one of the biggest challenges that HYT faced when they came back on with the new management, with the new models, is people still remember the times when the original watches came out, there were issues with the watches actually working. They assured me that now there's going to be zero issues going forward. They're still using the liquid technologies within watches, and they're still, in my mind, one of the most innovative independent brands out there. Met with Arnaud Nicolas of 𝗴𝗿𝗲, CEO, part owner of 𝗴𝗿𝗲, and man, did he give me a full-blown tour. You guys have seen a lot of the 𝗴𝗿𝗲 things around my office, and I was really excited and looking forward to seeing them. Specifically, I wanted to look at the hand grenades. I never saw those in person. One detail stood out when he was describing one of the car models that they made. How far down does the rubber on the tire go when there's weight applied in the car to give you the illusion of, hey, this is how a real car works? That attention to detail, that type of research is what impressed me the most. And oh yeah, who doesn't love a Winchester rifle that's also a clock? I'm a gun guy. And then we were off to visit my favorite independent, that's Max Buser at MB&F Madhouse. First and foremost, I was taken back by the welcome I received. Max, Thibaut, thank you for all of that, by the way. I was taken through pretty much every aspect of the operation of the company. I was there where the watchmakers sat, actually making watches. They don't stop when people are coming through. They continue doing their jobs. I spoke to some of the watchmakers. If you come in there with an MB&F, you show it to the 5-6 watchmakers that are sitting there, they'll tell you which one of them actually put that watch together, which is pretty amazing. You get to talk one-on-one with the guy that made your watch. They took us through to engineering. They took us through the design process. It was a bit of an awkward moment in engineering. This is why when Max comes up with an idea, engineers tend to lose hair afterwards.
That's exactly that. You see us?
not the first time I put my foot in my mouth. My favorite part about the entire thing was when I was in Max's office where he sits, and he talked to me about the idea, when the idea is born, the entire design process and what goes behind it. When I looked at a piece of paper on the wall that started with a bulldog, ended up being the HM9 bulldog, that's just an amazing story and just showed so much passion behind it and how much time that actually took. I can talk about MB&F for a long time. This is why we're gonna also put out a full-blown video on my visit to the Madhouse so you guys can get that in a little bit more detail for those of you that haven't had a chance to visit. 𝗙𝗰𝗲𝗯 was another one. I got to take a look at all the existing models and of course the very anticipated purple by 𝗙𝗰𝗲𝗯. 𝗙𝗰𝗲𝗯 is known for bluing their metals, right? Heating their metals to a point where they achieve this beautiful blue color. And then of course, their brand new grand complication that they made. Now guys, between these two hotels, it wasn't just big brands displaying a big fancy room. You had a bunch of rooms with 2 to 3 other brands would actually share the room to show a small brand that possibly nobody's ever even heard of. You had guys, random guys walking around that make their own watches that didn't even have a place or a booth or a table. They simply walked around and would take the watch off the wrist and say, hey, Roman, check this out. And I saw some pretty cool stuff from these hallway guys, as I dubbed them. In one room, I saw the company called Blacken, who accessorized your watches. Now, we've seen a ton of custom companies out there. This one stood out to me because they sell you an actual case where you basically take your existing watch, swap out cases, and your existing watch stays put. And of course, they also do some badass engraving work, which is really cool. And right next to them, there's a company called Formex. Caught my eye because aesthetically, right? These are watches that sell anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000. But what I loved about it is the innovation was still there, specifically on how the cases of these watches work. As I'm walking around, I'm just confirming the fact that, you know, innovation is difficult in today's world of horology. Yes, you see plenty of innovation from the big boys, but a lot of that stuff comes from the little guys, the guys that are sitting in the corner in the room that they're sharing with 3 other guys. For those of you that follow along on social media and our website, we picked up a couple of 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗏𝗏 watches. Usually they will make a bespoke dial, bespoke case, strap, you name it. They reached out to me to visit. I stopped by to say hello, and he was very, very excited and happy to show his own bespoke movement. Amazing gentleman. It was a pleasure to sit down with him and talk to him and see some of his watches as well. If you guys remember a little while back, 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗏𝗏𝗏 sent me a watch to review. He's a true Chinese manufacturer. I gave the watch a positive review and the guys were there as well. And to my surprise, not only were they there, but the master 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗏 dial maker came with them. This guy didn't speak a lick of English. However, not only did he come, they actually brought the machine. And that really gave me a new appreciation of what it takes to make one of those dials and how much craftsmanship actually goes behind it. They actually set me down behind the machine and they actually made me do it. I just made one revolution around the dial, and that's when I asked them, like, how long does this take? It's like, well, a dial in the watch that you receive can take up to 6 hours of this. I was super impressed with that. Another smaller manufacturer, Space One, this guy first caught me in that room, showed the watch, took it off his wrist, and I walked over to the booth and saw some of the incredible stuff that they make. My expectation of price was going to be $20,000 to $30,000. When I found out that that watch is around $3,000, I was really, really taken back because quality was there, the innovation was there, the watchmaking was there, everything was there. This is definitely a line I would consider picking up along with the guys at Formex. 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏 got bought over by a gentleman who actually caught me in the hallway. He showed me some of his new models. And the key point there is that he felt that originally, out of the gate when 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏 came out, the watches were a bit overpriced. The retail price tags on them were too high. He scaled down the price, keeping the same DNA of what an 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏 should look like. I'm happy to see him revive the brand. At the price point that they are now, I think they're actually starting to make a lot of sense. On my must brands to visit was 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. I always speak highly of 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. I wanted to see some of their new stuff. Some of it I can't show. If you can't talk about it, we'll just cut it.
Cut it for now.
Cut it. All right. Now that brands started spreading out their new releases, they put an embargo on certain things. You can look at them physically. You can even take a picture. You just can't release it. On the way there, I've run into a guy that I probably last met probably 10 years ago that makes mechanical belts that trade upwards of $70,000, $80,000. He put one on me and I didn't know how to take it off. I think that's an easy way to get you to buy that belt. Stop by to see Wolf. If you guys remember the Watch Pro Award ceremony, we co-sponsored the event together. There's always fun time with Nico, especially when you're in a very, very, very small elevator. So where are we going?
Okay.
Are we going down one or no?
No, we're already on 5, you fruit.
No, stop.
Jesus, sorry.
Double resting?
What are you?
Not me, no. Not today.
What the fuck am I doing in this elevator, bro?
Because you pressed every fucking floor.
Oh, no, no. Oh, okay.
You need to have a good look at yourself in the mirror, you fruit.
He needs to have a good look in his mirror.
Yeah.
It's Jason.
Oh, if I fart now, I have to shit myself.
Refresh it.
Uh-huh.
I told you guys, we're fucked.
It literally said room 5 something. Trust me.
One more, bro.
No, they're upstairs.
Trust me.
Okay.
No, you fucking dipshit. So I want all of this shit for nothing?
We're gonna watch Nico walk up a few floors. Ready? This is gonna be good.
It's a disgrace. So ring the fucking thing, no? I didn't do it.
After that, we went to 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝗃's office to see his operations. Because of a lot of the stuff that he was working on was new and it hasn't been shown to the public release yet, we were kind of limited in filming. His setup is a little weird because real estate in Old Town Geneva is not exactly available. So he has like the shop on one end, there's another shop where they make the straps, there's another office downstairs and another office upstairs. So he's like in 4 different places. I'm like, thinking about consolidating. It's like, yeah, buy me a space in Old Geneva where I can do that. I'll gladly do so. The guy's super humble. The wait list on his watches is probably 1,000,000 years at this point. You've seen his watch fetch $800-some thousand in auction. A watch that retail under $100,000. He's one of the most exciting independent watchmakers out there. There's a reason for that. My other close favorite independent watchmaker is Felix Baumgartner, is one of the founding fathers of AHCI, right? I got an opportunity to have a sit-down interview both with him and Martin Fry, Martin being the designer, Felix being the watchmaker. I got to see the entire operation. How many times have you guys heard me tell the story about the Wandering Hours clock, you know, the one from the 17th century that the Pope had made? That clock was actually there. Then I saw, you know, the new clock that they made that looks like a big tube, like one of those TV tubes. It was absolutely amazing, but the most amazing part was the actual interview part. And I will show you a full-length video of this as well in a separate cut. I met Konstantin Chaikin. I'm able to speak with him in his native language, and I spoke to him for a little bit, asked him, hey, you know, what effect did the conflict of Russia with Ukraine have on you and your watchmaking? I was very happy to see it that he said 0. Vianney Holter, his personality is bigger than his imagination and design of his watches. I took a look at the orbital turbine. Vianney Holter is all about space. Then in the corner, in a very, very, what I like to call hot box, because it's a small space, and as you can imagine, space is at a premium during these events and expensive. I met David Kando and looked at his watches. The woman that was there, her English was better than that of David's, and she, you know, wonderful presentation of these watches, how they're made, how well they're made, what the innovation is with each one. And about halfway through, I'm like, wait a minute, David Kando, that's the guy that made the movement for my favorite independent, the HM6, the Space Pirate. I'm like, well, duh. You know, sometimes you don't put the two together, and there's too many names, too many things, and it was just like a eureka for me. I was like, wait a minute. Also, don't forget, watchmaking is not just about wristwatches. It's also about clocks, and we saw a lot of cool clocks. Mickey Alita, oh my God, what a clock he made. When I saw that little alien come down out of that clock, and all the animations that clock has, I was just like, my jaw dropped. And of course, 𝗏𝗏, right? Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Gentleman made a watch with a 1,000-hour power reserve.
The biggest power reserve, personally, I've ever experienced was the Longa 31 day.
Yes.
This is better.
No, that's a family story, because my great-great-grandfather was an inventor of the 8 days power reserve pocket watch called 𝗵𝗏𝗄𝗏.
Oh, okay.
And beside that, he did a masterpiece for the Pope in 1888 with 40 days of power reserve. And that's my inspiration. So I thought if he was able to do that...
For a pocket watch, you can do it on a wristwatch.
Exactly.
And I decided to go to Watches and Wonders during the time when the public is allowed in. And the biggest reason for that is to meet you guys, right? Of course, I was there with Nico. At some point, we stopped. I don't remember, we were in front of which brand. And Nico went on a rant.
You don't even have to put this on camera. Just so disappointed. These are not watches. The watches are outside of this place. They're at the independent halls. There's no actual watchmakers here. We want to have passion. We want to see the incredible product. We don't want bullshit marketing, fucking gibberish. What the fuck?
You see the passion from these guys saying,
Yeah.
hey, I came up with this cool thing,
passion.
and the guy barely rented a table that's about this size in a room
That's
with another
where you
guy.
wanna be.
That's really what
That's
you want to see.
emotion.
Now look,
That's what I want on my wrist. Someone that has made that with passion, and that reminds me every morning that I need to fucking give it everything that today.
Nico, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, and I'm gonna say, look, I will agree with some of the stuff that Nico has said, but also let's not lose sight of the fact of some of the history that these companies have going back over 100 years.
But
and
history is not
just
the
because you're not fond of perhaps some of the product that you've seen this year or last year or the following year, you still can't discount the fact of how long these companies have been around, what they've done in the past, and perhaps what they can do to change their ways to change for the future.
I was once skinny as well. I was once skinny. I was once a footballer. Like, I mean, I can't be called up by the national team today. I can't even run 5 meters. That's the past. That's not the present.
What I'm saying is that you can dislike the product, but you don't need to necessarily dog the entire company.
It's about passion, right? 100%. We buy watches because it makes us feel better. It's because we love a story, history, or anything like that, right? I'm just being served the fucking product, and I don't like it. The brand is just a logo. It's not an identity anymore. It's just a logo. That's a problem. Or it could be, right? You just want to flex. Have you ever seen anyone ever flexing with a Panerai? I haven't.
Sylvester Stallone. What do you get paid?
Oh yeah, I got paid for it.
At the end of the day, it has to be a happy medium. I think I summarized it best why I'm wearing 2 watches. One was an Audemars Piguet perpetual calendar, and the other one was an 𝗴𝗿𝗲𝗆 skeleton. A lot of the watch collectors have gotten away from what our hobby is all about. It's about the passion for watchmaking. It's about history. It's about pedigree. It's about continuing to push the boundaries for as a watchmaker. It's not about the dollar signs. It's not about how much is my Rolex going to be worth in 5 years.
Yes.
So what I did is I put on my favorite brand, which is Audemars Piguet, a brand known for its high complications, known for its history going back a long time.
Yeah.
And I put on what I feel is one of the leading independent watchmakers, which is 𝗴𝗿𝗲𝗆, which is only about 25 years old. They started in the late 90s. If we merge the two, you get the best of both worlds. You get the history, you get the heritage, but you also get the innovation and what industry should be about, which is true innovation, watchmaking, horology at its finest.
Yeah.
The minute that you're able to merge these two. I don't have a magic wand to do so, but we stopped by this section called a lab where you see like technology, this big box. They say, can I see a watch? And they take your watch, put it inside this box. Next thing you know, there's a wall clock out of your watch.
This device is made to be hanged on the wall as a piece of art. So basically your watch becomes a wall clock or a piece of art.
What?
You ready?
I'm born ready. What? My watch is really scratched up.
That's all.
Oh my God. I need to polish it ASAP. I also realized that I need a polish for my AP. And you would think I'm going to go right to the big brands as soon as I get to Paris Expo. Well, there's still some independents displaying there. And kind of an independent, you can call them that, although Ulysse Nardin has 180 years of history. They are now independently owned. The brand has been bought back over and now is being independently ran. And at the helm is Mathieu. And Mathieu is their CEO who has been doing wonders for the brand. I'll give you a separate video on that one as well, the full interview, so you get to hear what Mathieu had to say about Nardin. And of course, as I said, I don't discriminate. I don't really separate the big guys from the little guys. I don't really even label little guys big guys. These are all watch companies, watchmakers. Look at the space Rolex occupies. It's just insane. Think about the amount of people that walk through Rolex versus a small independent watchmaker. Big brands, they don't really have a choice but to take most of their stuff displayed in showcases on the outside. Because if they were to have staff sitting there handing people watches to look at and try on, they would not get through 5% of the amount of people that wanted to see them, especially when the place opens to the public. Of course, they do that with the dealers, but those are on appointment basis. Every hour and an hour, there's an appointment. But with Rolex, it was what you probably guys already heard me say before. Numbers speak for themselves. 32.7% of our sales last year were indeed Rolex. We're talking to the tune of $30 million, and that's a big deal. And the reason for that is because they are doing something right in terms of brand name recognition. There's not a brand in the world that's recognized more than a Rolex. A lot of people have asked me what's on my wrist today. They recognize the AP, some recognize the 𝗴𝗿𝗃, some do not. If I were to have a Rolex on my wrist today, there would be a single individual in this room that wouldn't say, what is that, right? And as far as what I feel about their releases, listen, they went very, very heavy duty on gold and diamonds. Most people will say it might be a money grab. Maybe so. If it is, can you blame Rolex? They can do whatever they want, right? Small incremental changes. Oh, what a surprise. Like we haven't seen that before. That's what Rolex has been known for a long, long time. What I personally think, and this is my opinion, I may be wrong, I may be right, you guys decide, but at the end of the day, I think what you're seeing is Rolex realizing just how much product is out there today, specifically in a stainless steel genre. I mean, on a secondary, between dealers like us, not even on wrists yet, right? So if they were to come out with another 10 or so new stainless steel model, different variations of stainless steel model, what would that do to the overall market? And I think that's probably the smarter opinion in this particular case. Right across, I went to the Rolls Royce of all watches, and that was Patek Philippe. And again, about Patek Philippe, people say, oh, I wasn't impressed. It's more of the same. What do you mean you weren't impressed? It's Patek Philippe. The new 5980 Jean, quote unquote, amazing watch. The ladies Aquanaut that they made with the blue sapphires, baguette sapphires and baguette diamonds, amazing watch. The new white gold 5164, amazing watch. The minute repeater, rainbow, baguette on a bracelet, take my money. You have to take it all as a whole. And I think we're in times where we're coming back to that. We're coming back to that love of actual watchmaking, horology, whether it's among a big brand that's owned by a group or an independent watchmaker sitting in the corner somewhere in a hotel, hoping for somebody to pay attention to what he just made. Moser, I recently did a video when I visited Moserland in New York City, but Moser also has another brand alongside with them that they own together, which is Hotlands. The booth again was very open, very accessible. The staff at Hotlands talked about it. The highlight obviously was the plastic watch that you guys saw that looks like an old radio from the 60s. Let me tell you something, that thing is bonkers in person. And the other highlight for me was personally their new jump hour. I looked at it and right away said, that's Yahtzee. And I realized when they showed me the big model that it's actually a pretty smooth movements. But again, when they changed the hours, it gave you that illusion of shakiness, like a game of Yahtzee where the dice is just like shaking around. Then when we went on to Moser, they were set up together, sort of right and left. And there I got to see the coveted skeleton Moser Streamliner. Guess what? The watch did not disappoint. I think this is interesting stuff for those of you that love watches. Another independent, the Gnonefeld brothers, or as Nico called them, Gnonefeld brothers, because Nico speaks Dutch, and they are indeed Dutch. Langenzune, 2 new models. I'm not surprised. We talked about this before. Langenzune went the route of other brands lifting the brand up. The brands have been slowly climbing in value on the secondary. Why? Because they cut production down from like 5,500 pieces down to 2,000. So what did they come out with? A new datograph. Only one of the most iconic chronographs out there. That's literally the chronograph that made a company like Patek Philippe rethink their game along with all the other big boys and start making in-house chronographs when they made that badass chronograph. And then of course, the datograph Perpetual Tourbillon Lumen, take my money, thank you very much. What an amazing watch. This one, the retail is a little bit high out of the gate, but rightfully so for what it is. Cartier, another one, right? It was Santos. Notably, they took a very popular, less expensive model and they made a dual time, right? I was very happy to see them bring back the monopusher chronograph, sort of to revive what they're about because Cartier also does some pretty badass watchmaking. With Vacheron, you guys already know. Green Overseas. It was all about Green Overseas. I said the Green Vacheron, I think they're a little too late to the game.
You think?
Yeah, they're jumping on the green bandwagon about a year too late. Does that mean those watches aren't going to sell and they weren't the talk of the show? Absolutely they were, because anybody that mentioned Vacheron mentioned the new Gridals and how much they love it. It just shows the power of trends. And they brought back what they're very well known for, the Vacheron Constantin Kala, that absolute stunner of a diamond timepiece, which is just as much jewelry as it is watches, and they're very, very known for it. Walk through Roger Dubuis. What I loved about Roger Dubuis is they had the older models on display along with some of their newer models. For 2024, for them, it was all about celebrating the tourbillon. The Orbis in the Machina, which is the mono central tourbillon, was an amazing timepiece. Another double tourbillon, which they're very well known for, calling the Sunrise. Again, a little bit jumping on the bandwagon of the whole rainbow thing. Titanium monotourbillon. They did a monotourbillon in rose gold. What I love seeing is the fact that it went back to the old limited to 28 pieces idea. Not too many produced. I absolutely love that. Roger Dubuis always managed to make good looking watches. Van Cleef and Arpels. You would think, why would you want to go see Van Cleef and Arpels? Van Cleef and Arpels make some pretty kick-ass watches, number one. They also make some kick-ass jewelry. And of course, their new watches, their new ladies' pieces, which I can only describe as the most ridiculous works of art. Of course, their day-night display pieces, the Jout, I'm sure I got that wrong, right? Where you see the moon and the sun go across the screen while the dial of the disc is turning, and it's decorated so beautifully. Enchante, they called it, but the enchantment series, where do you even start? You really have to look at the close-up of this picture to appreciate how beautiful that watch is. And let me tell you something, pictures do not do those watches justice. Hermes was a pleasant surprise to some. When you think about watches and wonders or watches in general, Hermes is probably not the first brand that pops to mind, but they came out with a watch that's very competitive to that Omega market, that sports ladies watch market with the cut watch, very sleek, way polished, catches the light well, and I am 100% certain those watches will sell at the Hermes boutiques. They also had to show the world that they can also make complicated pieces. Limited edition Arcade Ducatal, muttering the name, 100%, which is a central tourbillon, not only a central tourbillon, but a 3D tourbillon. This is Hermes flexing their horological muscles, explaining to the world that, hey, we're not just pretty bags, we can also make high horology. And you would think a triple axis central tourbillon would be enough. That watch is also a minute repeater. I don't know about you guys, I'm pretty impressed. And of course, Piaget was all about what? The polo they made for their anniversary. And I was, sorry, not impressed. I'm not impressed with the price tag. They could have done so much more. Now, I'm not downplaying Piaget polo, one of the top iconic timepieces ever designed and created. But do something better, do something more different, do something more special for our anniversary, you know? Big fail, major fail, Piaget. With Panerai, it was all about the Luna Rossa, right? The Luna Rossa submersibles that they show at the show. Obviously, the display was, I don't know, made me want to go whitewater rafting, mountain climbing, diving, and all those things combined. Panerai was, again, one of my top selling brands when I first started in the business. They may have perhaps overproduced and under-evolved, right? But I think they're definitely going in the right direction the last few years. And Chopard with their Alpine line, the Rainbow Alpine, no, I'm sorry. But they certainly brought some jewels with them that are probably cost more than the GDP of certain countries. And of course, with Rolex comes Tudor, and I said what I've said before. Getting closer and closer in design to its mother, Rolex, big mother Rolex, but they are getting closer and closer both in design and actual pricing. A nice new precious metal watch that came out this year is quite up there in price and very comparable to Rolex. And I think it's well deserved. I'm a fan of Tudor. I think that they make wonderful looking watches, a lot of homage to the good old days, back in the day, very vintagey feels, and they're sticking with that theme. And I give them a few more years until, I mean, Rolex will most likely not allow Tudor to catch up to Rolex. You know, Rolex prices will be moving alongside with Tudor, but certainly they've gone a long way since when I started in this industry, when Tudor was just like, who the hell wants a Tudor, right? And now they've taken that brand to new heights, obviously, thanks to the mothership over there. And listen, I'm excited. I was excited to see their new novelty. Also, not a whole lot of novelties, unlike Rolex, but pretty exciting nevertheless. Hublot,
I don't like it.
a lot about sapphire. The Sang Blue Sapphire, aesthetically, is a gorgeous, gorgeous watch. And of course, the MP11 Water Blue Sapphire. Supposedly, if you put that in the water, it should technically disappear because it's water blue sapphire. Aesthetically good-looking watches. Overall, big A for me. Been talking about Zenith for quite some time. They've come a long way in terms of their design direction, right? In fact, I'm wearing a Zenith right now as we speak. The highlight was obviously the diver watch. And at a glance, you'd look at it and be like, oh, it's just another diver watch. And then you turn the watch sideways and you see the complexity of how the case and the bezel is actually designed and built. And it makes you actually fairly impressed. I think those watches are going to do really, really well in the market because, again, of affordability and great design and a big name. Tag Heuer, sum it up with one watch, Monaco split-second chronograph. And don't take that as a negative thing because the Monaco split-second chronograph, or the Monaco chronograph in general, is an iconic watch from Tag Heuer. To get to see that watch in person, oftentimes pictures or video doesn't do a whole lot of justice to these timepieces. If you get a chance to get out there and actually see one in person, and at the very least read about it and how it's been constructed and reconstructed and how well it's been executed, I think you may be just as equally impressed as I am. But there was another mini show that I wanted to go to outside of Polyexpo, Geneva School of Design, where Vincent Calabrese was there, who's an icon of independent watchmakers whom I wanted to go see. Remember, the first crystal watch made was not by anybody other than Vincent Calabrese when he did it for Quorum. What was cool is that for some reason, he ended up bringing some of his older pieces from the mid to late 90s. Some of these things were like one-offs that he made in a shop. He would take ETA movements and then put on top of it his most innovative modules for various jump hour watches. And we moved over to Antonio Peruzio, his son rather, that showed us what I was most looking forward to see in that particular hole, and that was the meteorite watch. When I say meteorite, that entire watch was made entirely of one piece of meteorite. He told us about the process, how many tools he broke, that he had to come up with a special liquid when they were cutting this material, which is so hard because you can't use oil because the oil would seep through the meteorite and ruin the whole overall natural look and feel. Never mind that the horology behind the product is also high horology. There's a patent that he holds. He showed us the model, the whole to-do. He explained to us how it works. I did skip a few parts just for the sake of making this video, not a bunch of hours long. And my best experience at Watches and Wonders, that was was in Poly Expo or visiting independents and hotels. It was you guys. It was meeting all of you guys. I'd never considered myself a celebrity or a big deal in the world of watches, but you guys made me feel that way. So I wanted to thank you for sticking around and watching this entire video. But most of all, for those that I've met in person, thank you for coming up. Thank you for shaking my hand. And thank you for telling me things that you love my content, you love what I do. This is what keeps me motivated to continue making this video and to continue turning on that camera day in and day out to provide that content for your enjoyment. Like, comment, share, subscribe, do all those wonderful things that help this channel grow. And stay tuned for the separate videos that I promised you. I will showcase some of these interviews as a separate video. Trust me, some of those are pretty badass. You will not want to miss them. I'll see you on the next one.